stark disparity, isn't it, between winning and losing here, and I bet you that's going to be on the minds of these teams. Xavier looking to go for the old hack fist here. Bello happy to play that one.
Outside of Cyclone coupling as well, you've already got the Moira, we got the Tracer and Sombra, so heavy flank operations. Xavier already taking a decent amount of damage, but they are going to get the first pick.
Yeah, he's going to be put to sleep, I'll tell you that much. Bello finds that one. That's a proper rock and sock and play. This is already a good advantage in this opening scrap here for Xavier. Just Bello finding opportunities, especially on these squishy supports. Cyclone coupling don't have a huge front line to stop the Doomfist necessarily, so Xavier get control of the point.
At the same time, they have decent amount of characters to kind of do something here, because if you have TOT getting a decent hack from Bello that shuts them down completely, now you start to look at the ultimates as well. Alone Phil's really getting up there in terms of EMP. TOT fair bit behind at the moment. Of a Cyclone coupling already having a member hacked, and now double Bionet.
Yeah, it's really nice, but Bello ends up going down. Lee Chang soon able to keep tabs on him, and now it's starting to get a little bit rough for Xavier. Rodsung looking like he's going to get drops here. Tay's solo healing cannot keep these tanks alive, so Cyclone coupling just sort of barreling their way back in, finding some key picks. They end up popping Primal Rage, but they will also get the point.
They actually had a decent start as well. They just needed to be able to lean into the EMP, which came up slightly too late for them. Bello now changing onto the Brigada, something a little bit better against Lee Chang Soon's Tracer and also TOT on the Sombra. But the issue now becomes we have the fact where Cyclone coupling have ways to play around the EMP. Lee Chang Soon's going to be looking for early kills on this Pulse Bomb as well, which can really just stop Xavier's push entirely.
I like the swap for Rodsung here, which the Winston makes him less of a sitting duck, also allows him to follow up on things like this EMP pretty effectively. Pulse Bomb goes wide there out of Lee Chang Soon. So far it's just the kills getting picked up on the side of Xavier. I say as Cyclone coupling finds a counter trade, but so many low members, you feel like something's got to give. TOT is well and truly out of this fight. Finally gets finished off as well to confirm that one. Lee Chang Soon now down. MG, even if he gets back in the mech, all this really accomplishes is actually, I say that he's allowing Fallen to pick up some more kills here, but Xavier are still kind of around this point. You wonder, where's the breaking point for either of these teams? The answer is when Rodsung comes back into the fight.
I think with Xavier, they knew they were basically almost guaranteed to win this fight. However, that self-destruct bought a decent amount of extra time for Cyclone coupling to maybe make a few counter trades. Those were on important members. Both Tay and Thittercall went down, and both had ultimates to play. So that ended up being quite risky for Xavier, where because they failed to clean up the fight fast enough, then they lose potentially game-changing ultimates that would have held on to their point. They played that one fairly close. They'll get this captured at the end of the day and get to walk away now for ultimates in the bank.
That's the real thing. Having those 4 ultimates in the bank is a nice preservation here. That's a very nice grab as well. They've already found Dimwit, getting sleep as well, and these tanks find themselves up a tree without a ladder, so to speak. As in, they should be relatively easy to kill. It's going to be tough for them to retreat, but they have been able to mostly get out. So Xavier, they get more time on the point, but they don't get the full value from the grab.
Now, Lucio's got a big job around for this fight in particular, because Sound Barrier needed to be countered, needed to be used as a counter to the EMPs, of which both sides will have pretty quickly as TOT is rounding around that 100% mark as well.
Rodsung's in a bit of an awkward spot here.
Early force.
Receiving a nano boost. Keeps him alive. Now the EMP out aggressively from Alone Phil's. While they've got that nano boost on, they might as well try and get something of it. Make hay while the sun is shining. Stick goes out, but it doesn't get anything done there. I believe Barrier came up from THK, and they are going to be just fine. They did have to dig deep into the ultimates, but as we round the bend to 99%, all's well that ends well, and Xavier will pick up Mecha Base as soon as they clear TOT off this point.
We do have an overtime triggered here. There is still an opportunity for the EMP to come through, and TOT, he's the last member that can really do something about it.
They both popped them out, but there's the Sound Barrier to deal with that EMP. The Primal Rage from Fallen as well, only getting a minimum amount done. MG, again, self-destruct to try and force more space here, maybe enable Fallen, but doesn't work half as well as it did the first time around. Bello for Fallen is a trade you are more than happy to take if you're Xavier. They still have far more members available in this fight, and they are still the ones getting more kills. So, Mecha Base to Xavier.
And sadly, that last fight, well, the one previously, the second to last one, I should say, when both teams had an EMP, both teams had a Sound Barrier. For Cyclone coupling, they had their Sound Barrier forced out very quickly, didn't use that one. 3 members then got theirs cancelled through by the EMP, which connected, which means, okay, most of that Sound Barrier didn't end up doing too much. Cyclone coupling then didn't get to use their own EMP. Xavier still get to hold on to their own Sound Barrier, so once TOT then uses it in the last engagement, that Sound Barrier is immediately there to counter. Xavier's already in position to be able to finish the round. They're already at 99%. They pushed up the last few guys, and then they take this one. And for Xavier, not super comfortable, but definitely you could feel like they were in the lead.
And they have felt like they've executed relatively better in most of those fights. Let's see if that remains true as we move on into downtown. They don't want to try the Hack Fist to start with. They're just going to run the same thing, and so is Cyclone coupling, so Xavier happy with that.
It's actually a good read by Bello now, kind of just expecting that maybe Trace to Sombra is going to get played once more. And Brigida's ideal pick for that as we get into the first skirmish. A couple of low members on Cyclone coupling already.
Fallen nearly lived up to his namesake. Actually, Thetacorn ended up a little bit isolated. They managed to find Bello as well. Rodtang too low, gets picked off, and that was nearly there for Xavier. They got a couple of members to the breaking point, but ended up overextending themselves slightly without actually confirming the kills. So Cyclone coupling were able to counterattack.
And that hack onto Rodtang as well confirms another kill on the Cyclone coupling side, which, you know, they end up saving their members. Like you mentioned, Fallen and MG, probably, if you can imagine a world where they go down, Xavier trade 2-2, anything can still happen at that stage. But now we go to the next fight. Pulse Bomb's still going wide. No, it doesn't actually.
Tay ends up dropping into the Pulse Bomb. A little bit unfortunate from them. I mean, it was already Coalescence keeping them mostly at bay, and THK was likely going to be demexed anyway, so this probably wasn't a fight Xavier were going to win, but it's still a tough loss. They haven't exactly charged up ultimates. Oh, late death on THK just as he was going to remap.
Speaking of tough loss, right, because they need those 6 members to actually have an EMP. They could have played if they had 6. Now, by the time they do get back in the mech and do come back as their full team, TOT is very likely going to be able to match EMPs. So that's going to be a window that closes quite quickly for Xavier in terms of where they would have had advantage.
They have managed to get the members in, though. It's a hack on Rodtang while he's airborne, but it does mean he's still able to land down. Check out that P&P, boys. They've got a Primal Rage available on Fallen here. It is Cyclone coupling, scooping up the kills once again. So Xavier just not getting the early conversion they needed on that ultimate. And again, they just end up getting counterattacked.
You can imagine, okay, Xavier, they do this about 5 seconds earlier. TOT's maybe 5 to 10% still behind. There wouldn't be that quick of an EMP response from Cyclone coupling. There's 2 steps to this. One, they actually survived against Alone Phils and his EMP from Xavier's side, but then on top of that, they don't have to live that long because they survive a little bit of that. TOT's not caught within that EMP, then goes for the counter, and their one is so much more effective. Cyclone coupling still hold on to the point, and they're reaching 80%.
Aggressive self-destruct just to try and open the space up a little. Dimwit actually committed a very early sound barrier, which may end up costing them, but Rodtang hacked out. Can't commit Primal Rage. That was a really big ultimate that Xavier needed to get some value out of. They at least traded with Lee Chang soon, but that is not an even trade. Fallen low, if they can finish him off, then maybe they're in business. Nice hack onto MG, stops the self-destruct to preserve the mech, and now Fallen eating some pain. They're going to commit Coalescence.
Tay still hacked
in this fight. And as long as Tay is hacked, they can commit this. They can't commit this sound barrier, rather, but they're able to get the upper hand in the fight. End up having to commit an EMP to make it happen, but at 99%, you'll use anything it takes to secure the fight.
And that was really close. I mean, Xavier just kept members in there. They got Lone Phils. Eventually, the EMP comes through. Tay doesn't go down, so if things go even worse, the sound barrier is still available. They now get to hold on top of that, which is very important because TOT has another EMP, and Xavier needs some snowball momentum right now. They need to be able to carry through these fights all the way up to 99% themselves.
There's the dive in from Fallen. There's the EMP. Here comes sound barrier. It's a very
nearly
long
wasn't
channel
close.
as you come off the top of that roof. But they're able to keep their members alive, certainly for long enough to get sleep on the reverse side of the fight. And now the re-engage coming in from Xavier as they just sort of pull back, absorbs the pressure. Now they fight back. That's a bit of an ouch from THK, but they've won the fight. They'll have plenty of time for him to get back to this point.
Xavier cut that one very, very close. Thetacorn and Bello nearly went down. You can imagine this would have been only a 4-man sound barrier, not a full 6. That might not have been enough to win them that fight. But here we go, Cyclone coupling. Going to make a couple of changes. TOT onto the Brigida now. Lee Chang-sun went onto the Sombra. They want to play a little bit of 3-3 while it's still available. They only need to win one fight, and you can imagine they will get ultimates by the time we hit 99.
Xavier, on the other hand, a little bit of ways from ultimates. That's a really huge pick on Fallen, though. Takes the Primal Rage off the table. Also just gives them a flat numbers advantage against a number of members who are freshly swapped. That is critical for Xavier. They're going to be able to pick up some more kills. They're going to be able to charge up some ultimates here. EMP should become available, potentially Primal Rage as well. That was a critical win for Xavier.
And now you're starting to look at the percentage points, and you have to look at the time available as well. Alone Phils will have EMP for this next fight. Fallen's already going in. This could be the commit already from Cyclone coupling, and it may be premature.
I think what it is he wasn't able to pull out and ended up cut off. He went, well, I could pop Primal and live, or I could not and die, and we have to wait, and he chose the former option, but it's just one less ultimate now for Cyclone coupling in an already unfavored fight.
And we need to see Graviton surge, but Lee Chang-sun needs to do a lot of damage in a small amount of time for that to be valuable. Lone Phils goes in, only gets 2.
Oh, the EMP, though, it's allowed the open up of the self-destruct, and Dimwit too late to save sleep, and now he's himself asleep Only 1 kill in return from Bello, or on Bello rather, from MG. Rodtime goes ahead and pops Dimwit into the path of the oncoming train. Xavier pull it back from the brink, 0 to 99, to end up taking downtown, and they're going to take Busan.
And they're going to be able to, on specifically downtown, get that second EMP in a row, win with that, get that snowball rolling in for the side of Cyclone Coupling. Just could never catch up once they started going onto that 3-3 GOATS composition. Unfortunately for them, that's going to end up being that 0-2 start. Xavier already looking pretty decent. Not super clean. It hasn't been easy for them, especially that second round where it had to be basically a full recovery from a 99% deficit, which is why it feels really upsetting for the side of Cyclone Coupling when, they had such a big lead to throw that one away.
I will say on the whole, though, Xavier have executed relatively cleanly, at least cleaner than Cyclone Coupling. That's helped significantly. Once they get underway, they feel relatively comfortable. We'll have to see if that remains the case, though, on the other map modes, because Control, as we say, is quite a different beast in that regard. It's sometimes more forgiving in a sense. You can just get that convenient pick, turn things back around, rebuild a macro game. It operates in a different kind of way. I also wonder if Cyclone Coupling can just tidy up some of their execution. I think we should still have a very competitive series on our hand after this point.
Because this could have actually been 100-0 from the side of Cyclone Coupling instead, in which case we go to Sanctuary. Don't really know what's going to happen there. I think for the most part, I think you look at the start of Mecha Base, it was a decent start for Xavier. Doomfist coming out early, instant connection on the hits, instant kills. Both teams end up making, really Xavier making a couple of swaps there, Bello onto the Brigitte instead. They start that immediately on downtown. You expect them to be able to do quite well with that because they get a decent matchup. However, they lose members quite quickly. They don't secure kills. They have to go into this big recovery phase. It takes them a long time to come through. And even in the fight that they did recover eventually, it didn't really feel like it was going to be there straight away. Felt like it was a bit of a slow starter.
Yeah.
Could have still gone the way of Cyclone Coupling. This just wasn't really a consistent enough performance from Xavier for me so far that this one could have definitely still easily been a Cyclone Coupling map instead.
And that's why you asked the question moving forward as to whether or not Xavier are going to be able to stay what is technically currently ahead of Cyclone Coupling. Like you said, it's not perfectly clean, it's not super comfortable, it's just technically that's how it's fallen so far. Whether that remains to be the case is a completely different story, and I feel like we're still waiting to see whether Xavier are going to be hot or cold today. They haven't really shown us either way yet.
We'll have to see which team comes out ahead on Assault, which will be our next game mode. Let's go ahead and check that out.
Welcome to Hanamura. This is Assault. Two teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to capture two objectives. First A, and then B. To capture an objective, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. To resume capture, the attackers must force the defenders off the objective by any means necessary. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. Now the fight moves to objective B. If even one attacker is on an objective when the clock runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until either team is cleared away. The round ends when the attackers capture both objectives, or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points wins.
Now we'll be heading over to Volskaya Industries, where I do expect a few comp changes here from both sides.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of Widowmakers, seeing a lot of snipers, Farahs, and bunkers specifically on this. So I want to know now, specifically on the Xavier end, I do expect a decent of those to come out. THK's Hanzo is a known factor. On the Cyclone Coupling side, a few more questions about what they actually want to do there. TOT back on Sombra is probably not a bad case. Something that he's been playing for the most part since he's been on the team as well.
I also wonder, not necessarily on Volskaya specifically, but just in the sort of broad brushstrokes of things, whether Xavier are going to lean back into that Sombra Doomfist, something that is still going to be present on the minds of these teams. As much as they have more immediate concerns, playoffs will be played in that 2-2-2 role lock. I say these guys have more immediate concerns because neither team is guaranteed to make playoffs, and you don't want to not make playoffs because you were trying to make a 2-2-2 work when maybe your GOATS was a bit stronger at the time. We've already seen that kind of happen for Xavier here. They were running what is strictly a 2-2-2 at the start of Mecha Base with the Sombra and Doomfist, and then swapped the Doomfist out to a Brigitte, a 3-2-1 comp. So I wonder what they look to opt into here and whether that's their intended bread and butter 2-2-2, and if it's not going to work, what are they going to do?
And neither team can really afford to take too many risks here when it is going to be the final potential game they play for the rest of the season to get themselves into playoffs. So there's a case where, like you mentioned, you can't really be trying to run before you can walk at the moment, where if you are trying to get to playoffs, you don't need to worry about 2-2-2 until you actually get there. For now, it's about beating the opponent that's right in front of your face, and, well, chance for Xavier to make it a 2-0 match point lead, and chance for Cyclone Coupling to bounce back.
Well, we've answered some of those questions. We are going to see Cyclone Coupling running the double sniper with the Orisa, relatively expected on the defense. Xavier looking to lean into THK and Alone Pills as their primary DPSs here, and Li Shang soon. Already finding two. That's a big slowdown for Xavier already.
Well, they get to find out what the defensive comp is pretty much straight away now for Xavier. Do they make any changes off the cuff? So far, no. THK actually finds an opportunity, which is quite nice.
Yeah, that was very, I would say, opportunistic. Unfortunately, Tay ends up going down, and Recall does just res Li Chang soon. Now it's THK overextended, so it ends up not really being the opportunity he thought it was.
And really what you want to see happen here for your Xavier is, okay, you take down Li Chang soon, Recall goes in for the res, you take him down as well. However that opposite happens, you lose your own Mercy, and their Mercy gets the res. So all of that kind of early advantage that maybe you build, like getting that one pick, goes away quite quickly in Xavier. Still back to square one. The real difference is they might get a Dragon Blade, but until that happens, Xavier just looking for any opportunity they can find. Alone Fills now on Hanzo.
Yeah, making the swap to the spam. I do like that. Speaking of spam, though, oh, that's another one onto Queen. He and Bello are taking so much pressure. By the way, Queen back in over Rod Tongue, so interesting change up there.
And this is now where Xavier, despite that change up, just still can't really see Queen getting out of base, and now Tay's going to go down again. Xavier just still down. So many members. Not only that, but you have a few players kind of out of position. You can see the rotation happening through Bellows trying to get back to his own team.
Really struggling to make the rotations in the first place. They're often losing members, eating a bit too much spam damage, getting a little bit disconnected as well with their flankers, and it's really starting to cost them.
I will say, though, Cyclone Coupling's defense is not that well equipped to deal with a Nanoblade unless Sleep hits the Sleep Dart. And now Cyclone Coupling needs to do quite a decent amount to spread out against Nanoblade to not get themselves team wiped. Xavier, this is finally the opportunity for them to strike.
Another noted substitution, by the way. Dimwit is out and Recall is back in for now. So that is one player still around. No headshot out from that halt.
Honestly, wasting a lot of time here, because for Xavier, if somebody does get picked off by a headshot, that would be the over.
There's the commit. THK gets two with one fell swoop, despite the biotic grenade.
That's what you want to see.
Still got the Mercy in the pocket, and as soon as that wears off, he's getting healed back up. And they also just couldn't quite get the damage output on him. Nice and mobile, does plenty of damage himself, and that's the can opener play that they were looking for.
And with 300 effective HP there from the Nano Burst and a lot of extra damage, Cyclone Coupling, they don't have the CC. There's no Sombra here. There's no Rhymes, there's no other things, there's no, you know, all the kind of typical heroes you see, Brigitte being the main one, I would say, as well, to really stop a Nanoblade being effective. Everyone's kind of just out in the open. Easy kills for THK. If they weren't going to win up that Nanoblade, it would have been a very hard push for Xavier. So they get what they needed to do there, swap onto a 3-2-1 comp, keep Alone Fills 42% on the EMP, and now look to see what they can do on B.
It's kind of their ideal situation as well, to win with that ultimate, like you said, enabling the swap, and this is still a rebuilding phase for them, but it could still be a relatively successful one. Cyclone Coupling really just have the supercharger and nano boost. More than enough to win a defense on, mind you, but it should also be a nice long fight where Xavier can charge up ultimates. Not if they get members picked off like Bello, though.
That's an awkward position for Bello to be in this early on. Maybe he ate a halt, which pushed him forward, but Xavier, either case, are going to need to back out here, which is going to give both TOT and the Lone Phils time to build up this EMP. And there's a couple of ways you could have seen the Nano Boost being used by Sleep as well. One, on the TOT to get the EMP up quicker, but now he can just choose to use it on Fallen instead to hold position on the point.
Whereas Xavier were wanting to maybe get a Nano Boost to pump into Queen, help charge up an Earth Shatter, maybe even get some kills, and also get their own EMP. Queen super low in the rotation, the anti-heal wears off, they top him back up, but that was down to the wire, and it's a lot more ultimate charge again for Cyclone Coupling. They have the supercharger down. Xavier need to figure out how to push into this.
And they're still waiting for their own EMP, and likely Xavier are not going to be able to get much done here. Lone Phils doesn't get caught, though.
That's a nicely timed EMP nonetheless. Even though Lone Phils now has his, I wonder if they'll actually go ahead and commit it. They decide they maybe want to take the spite. They've put the Nano Boost into Velo, actually, and he's made that work out for them. Now they've got THK with a lot of charge in the pocket, really starting to do damage on the point. So managed to kind of pull it out of the hat here, despite the reasonable EMP from TOT to begin with and the loss of Queen. Xavier getting effective counter trades and knowing which baskets to put their eggs in. They're looking like they're going to get a cap here.
And MG hasn't been able to use his self-destruct yet. He's going to be able to fly in the last second, maybe.
Not quite.
Oh, that sucks.
Tough. Real tough break for Cyclone Coupling, actually. They committed the supercharger really early there as well, and it actually expired by the time Xavier made the push.
And the thing is, okay, they got the early damage done, but they got Queen super low. They didn't pick up that kill. That kill goes through. That's probably an ended push for the side of Xavier. However, Xavier get the heal back up, wait out the Bionade effects, wait out the supercharger, be in position where they still have a Lone Phils off to an angle, doesn't get caught by the EMP. He's one of the few members, he might be the only member to memory that doesn't get caught by the EMP.
I think Thinkcorn didn't either, but I think it was just those two.
Well, 4 people did, and of those 4 people, maybe you start to get a couple low, you start to get a couple down, you see the 1v1 happening off the edge, where TOT is trying to take down a Lone Phils, and if a Lone Phils goes down here, there's no chance for a comeback. Even if Xavier start to get a couple members in a trade, they don't have a big EMP to secure it, but because the Lone Phils then survives that as well, translocates out, comes back, uses EMP, Xavier still have a total 4 members on that point. They get this big cleanup. Caught in the EMP was MG, who doesn't get to use self-destruct. That could have been another stall tool for Cyclone Coupling to be able to turn that fight around, and it goes so wrong for Cyclone Coupling so quickly.
Another curious sort of microcosmic aspect is the Zarya. We saw THK towards the end of the fight with like 95 charge. That doesn't happen if you just push straight in. That actually partially happens because of some of the damage you take in the rotation. You charge up the barrier, you get to use another round of barriers before you're actually in the thick of the fight. And you get that extra bit of charge in the pocket. It's all these little things that added up, and it results in about 3 minutes 17 of the time bank. Cyclone Coupling now having to measure up to that.
Well, it certainly doesn't happen during the EMP phase of the fight anyway, where, I mean, you're not going to be putting out your bubbles then, and if you have any bubbles out, they're going to be cancelled. Speaking of this next attack, though, it's going to be Cyclone Coupling still on the double sniper versus Hog. Now, Lee Chang-soon did a decent job on defense. He's going to need to be able to match that now on the attack.
I do kind of like the team comp from Xavier, but it is very volatile. If someone gets headshotted out, then the defense can crumble very quickly. Outside from that, though, there's a lot of self-sustain here. I like the Batiste as well. They're looking for picks, though, primarily with the Hulk hook.
We already see Cyclone Coupling making the rotation towards the point. Xavier have lost a lot of space by now, taking a decent amount of damage as well. It's hard for them to engage. THK can't really go in, so that's a bit of a weird pick in this defense so far.
They're having to play very defensively, balancing those barriers and the ice walls as well. That was Immortality Field committed and now destroyed as Lee Chang-soon's able to find a headshot. And like I said, one kill could just open the defense wide up, but Cyclone Coupling to try and press that advantage do end up playing a little bit into a Lone Phils' hands here. Xavier going to get a few more kills than what Cyclone Coupling could accomplish, and they will be able to stabilize long enough for Tay to come back.
And that could have gone so much worse for Xavier because they lose a few members. Cyclone Coupling are up now by 2. Xavier are going to have a hard time responding. What they can really do is play very defensively with the May walls, try and get a few counter trades with the Hulk combos, and speaking of which, recall down is going to end the next push for Cyclone Coupling immediately.
Yeah, long before it begins, and even if that was anyone else, you could maybe have rezzed them, but it's literally the person with the res. Ooh, nearly connecting another hook onto what I believe was TOT. That would have been brutal.
And this time around, you do have a Nano Blade. It's still awkward to play into that offense. And what, you no longer have a Nano Blade.
Yeah.
Xavier have to go back to stalling options now. Blizzard's going to be quite useful, but you got to land it properly.
That's a Hulk hook that came out from Cyclone Coupling. But there's that Blizzard onto Cyclone Coupling as they were committing. That's a lot of sitting ducks on the point with no way to really heal themselves up. The self-destruct can get barriered out and avoided by Bello, who did also receive a nano boost. He may just go down. No, barely stays alive with the take a breather. And now this is a scrap that MG is going to wish he wasn't a part of. Bello staying alive is so critical. And once again, Xavier end up surviving what could have been a much worse fight for them.
Bello's going to be taking a few breaths this time around as well. Xavier still get to hold on to a decent number of ultimates. You can see the Blizzard went out there, so did Nano, so did Amplification Matrix. THK dying super early definitely did not help this comp. Still has a Dragon Blade, but I still don't know what he can get done with this.
Oh, he's going to try and make something work. He actually found COT early, and now he's carving up the backline. Part of that is getting fallen down as well, and also the Roadhog there, Sleep not hitting the hook. No way to really slow THK down. That ends up paying off big time for Xavier.
And that shouldn't be where Dragon Blade is used for, okay? On the last time we saw the Dragon Blade on the Xavier attack, there were much weaker members to go up against.
Oh, man.
This time around, members like Sleep should be able to have a much better time shutting down THK, and this offense is falling apart so quickly. We've got less than 1 minute remaining, and Xavier's still looking pretty comfortable.
That was a nice pick on Tay, but I do very much prefer the Sparrow here. Makes that Ice Wall less effective at blocking the damage compared to what the snipers can do, and you start to see that paying off already. Xavier have had to retreat into this tiny little room, and that's far better for Cyclone Coupling. They can sit pretty on the point. They can also push into this room. They'd already got the kills to back that up, and they've figured out a very convenient way to break apart this defense.
And for Xavier as well, they just had no options against this far, unfortunately. THK is not going to be the member to do too much. You also have a case where they landed a hook onto MG super early, failed to get that DMEC, and because they didn't get that, they didn't have the 6v5 advantage to work with. If the 6v5 happens, maybe Cyclone Coupling don't actually cap here. There's still not a lot of time to work with even on B, so Cyclone Coupling have a lot of work to get done with not a lot of time.
I do like that they're sticking on the Barra for now. They might as well give a punch with the Rocket Barrage, but Xavier themselves have some pretty nasty ultimates. Nano Blade can actually carve Lee Chang-soon out of the skies quite easily. Good hook onto Bello, though. That's a critical ultimate there. Immortality Field ends up getting dropped. Xavier, they're going to try to draw their line in the sand here. The Nano Blade out very early. They find TOT. There's the Rocket Barrage, and CHK can't quite get on to these members. Couldn't quite find recall either. The Blizzard not going to do too much to slow down Cyclone Coupling. These members are low, but with the res coming in and recall still in the mix, they could at least get a third here, but Xavier do have respawn advantage. And so many of your respawners live, though.
Bello's going to get in here. He does have a whole hog backed up by the Immortality Field, and maybe Xavier can get a few picks with this.
Desperately trying to make something work. They at least push Cyclone Coupling back, and that does give Xavier some space to get their respawners onto the point, but even then, the trades are mostly favoring Cyclone Coupling. You see THK down, at least took MG's mech with him, and now Reaper out has the element of surprise, but that might not be enough here. The supercharger down means Alone Fills is in a world of hurt, ends up getting taken down. Cyclone Coupling just as happy as Xavier were, actually, to take a bit of a breather, regroup, collect themselves, charge up ultimates, find their way back onto this point, and they should be completing a cap here.
See what the Dragon Blade does this time around. It's the last-ditch effort, but instantly taken down. Xavier now severely running out of options. Alone Fills, can he even get to the point in time just to get himself a little bit more time off that clock? Cyclone Coupling should still be able to cap.
It wastes some seconds. That's maybe all that Xavier can hope for. They'll waste a few more as well with Queen, but that's going to be that. About 45 seconds separates these two teams, so it is better technically for Xavier. But you look at how that defense was going on A. They honestly dragged a lot of time off the clock, but then Cyclone Coupling able to really maneuver their way through for the B offense and make up most of that deficit.
And this is where, for Cyclone Coupling, they got that nice snowball onto B, okay, despite only having 5 minutes instead of more, which is what you'd usually expect going after A. Walking into B, they didn't even have the best comp necessarily. Fire doesn't have enough room to work in there with. Lee Chang-soon also got taken down early enough that a res was forced up before the B push even happened. So now we have to have a kind of fight that goes long enough for the res to come back in. The res does get used onto Fallen. Lee Chang-soon's still down, has to respawn and come back from spawn. Then you have the case where, unfortunately, if you're Xavier, you have very low members. Bello survives for the most part, uses the whole hog, doesn't kill anyone, sadly.
Yeah.
Has an amplification matrix there as well to get in some extra damage. Doesn't land any kills from anyone, for that case, from Xavier. And they just couldn't make the trains happen. Dragon Blade doesn't happen 3 times in a row. He's had two decent Dragon Blades by now, but
yeah.
I mean, the luck runs out here. Eventually, versus a tanky lineup, there's an Orisa there, there's a Hog here, you are going to get shut down.
Part of it as well. He ended up on a bit of a wild goose chase trying to find recall. You wonder maybe if he knocked out Lee Chang-soon earlier. At the very least, you can force recall into somewhere where he wants to try go for a res.
He had a free slice on Fallen that he didn't go for, by the way, but I mean, these are very small things where sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And for Cyclone Coupling, we talked about how A wasn't the hottest for them. They now need to make sure that this is going much better if they want a good sort of time to work for onto B, because in this time back now, they do work with a slight deficit.
So they do run out the Widowmaker first, just to sort of partially check, see if they can get a pick. Then they change onto the Pharaoh. That was how they were able to break this defense last time, and this time Xavier won't have ultimates that they could try and work off either, so it's going to be a very difficult defense.
And if THK actually ran a Hanzo here, this wouldn't be as effective, the Pharaoh I'm talking about. So for Lee Chang-soon, should be pretty effective. They won like this last time, and if they could do it in that one push like they did, then this is going to be a great time.
Yeah, because that's the lone fills going down. You can see THK was trying to pressure Lee Chang-soon, but you saw counter pressure coming in from MG, so really nice sort of subtle protect the president play there, and THK does finally find his mark, but he will pay for it with his life, and that will be Cyclone Coupling getting the point. So they found a composition that broke the defense well last time. All they needed to do was run it right out the gate before losing all those extra minutes, and they're going to cap with plenty of time to go on to B.
Xavier's still thinking about what comp they want to run for this defense. Lone Fills was thinking about the Hanzo. It's going to go onto the Reaper instead. Nanoblade's going to be up, but you still just have to question how effective is this going to be. Lee Chang-soon and Combo and Recall are going to be high in the air. Cyclone Coupling still have ways to mitigate the damage here. Orisa's not going to go down instantly. Sleep can still land a Hog. Xavier are going to be banking a lot on just this one ultimate.
Dragon Strike will at least force some positioning. I don't know if I like the Pharaoh. Last time it at least had a Rocket Barrage still. THK with the Nanoblade now getting aggressive. It's already made that one pay off, and has taken the wind out of Cyclone Coupling sails. I imagine we might see Cyclone Coupling swap some members out here, and it'll also just waste some time. Still some late deaths. I don't know that Recall, he will be able to make it out here.
I don't know how many they'll actually change, because in this last minute remaining, you don't have a lot of time to work with for actually getting ults. So what they do have is Rocket Barrage coming online. What they do have is the other 3 tank ultimates, and now a pick, which might not get res. It's pretty dangerous, so this could be push time.
Very far forward. Unfortunately, Cyclone Coupling aren't quite in position to make the most of it, so THK will respawn and re-enter this fight. There's a brief window here, but Recall's already down. Sleep finds 2, though, in response. Tay needs to go ahead and res one of those. Recall cannot match that. Alone Phil's late entrant into the fight here. Busy trying to reposition first, and now that he's in, he's alone, living up to his namesake. Cyclone Coupling, they're going to be able to get a full cap once again now in the time bank. And even though they had the lower time to start with, this is going to put so much pressure on Xavier unless they can somehow rescue this defense. But with 2 going down to the Dragon Strike, I don't think it's all that likely.
No members left alive. The best that Xavier can do now is force this into the overtime itself, which is going to happen by now. Bello goes down, no more members can step on, and that's going to be it.
Barely getting it into that overtime, but they still need to fully cap themselves. And the thing is, if they fully cap with less than a minute, then Cyclone Coupling still get another round of attack. So if they want to put this into a situation where they have a winnable defense, or a winnable offense rather, they need to cap with more than a minute.
It's got to be a 1 attempt the entire way through. 1 attempt on A, 1 attempt on B, I think would be realistically what we're going to see out of Xavier here, because too much slowdown on either side is going to give too much time over for Cyclone Coupling to start mounting a defense, start getting ultimates up online. And right towards the end there, I think we're now starting to see a few compositional errors outside of, you know, a couple of decent Dragon Blades, or say a few decent Dragon Blades now. Still a bit of a coin flip, because you can see them going quite wrong otherwise. But yes, they go well sometimes. But after that, I don't know that the Genji is still that useful. You'd still, in many cases, especially versus Pharaoh, prefer the Hanzo being there instead. Alone Phil's sticking on the Reaper, where, you know, a Diva like he's playing right now would have been very good, because you still have, again, that Pharaoh you've got to deal with. You have a lot of things where, for Cyclone Coupling, part of how they got past A so easily is the fact that they had members that were just uncontested.
Twice now we've also seen the Reaper try to get into the fight by setting up on a flank, and by the time the Reaper's actually ready to go, at least 2 members are, at least 2 members are already dead, and then the Reaper drops in and dies himself. It's not getting any kind of mileage. It's already a very volatile pick in the first place, but that's all in the past now. Xavier just going to run out on a Goats here. They don't want to risk anything.
And let's remind ourselves what happened last time. Lee Chang-soon got a lot of damage done early. He got a lot of picks. mid-rotation for Xavier. So good news is they're expecting that this time around, and nobody has gone down on rotation despite THK getting low. This could be a decent one for Xavier if they can get into position and find that brawl early.
They're relatively ready at this point.
That's a headshot.
Need to be careful, though, that they still don't take too many shots. They're out in the open for a moment here. Alonefills ends up pulled in, out of the mech already. They haven't found any counter trades, and now it all falls apart for Xavier. They have to start looking at maybe some kind of retreat or pulling back to a more stable position.
And this is where even if you don't get the kill in the headshot, that full damage shot straight away on Queen, and now he's starting to pick up those shots on exit, which is still going to delay that retreat so much. Xavier cops so much extra damage that Queen can't jump in as far, can't be as aggressive. You then have Alonefil slightly forward to try and protect him. He gets hooked in. He then gets demeched himself. Queen is too low to do anything about that. Has to jump away. The entire push is over. Then on exit, you start to lose more members.
Yeah.
That slows down your respawn. You're already in a time bank scenario where there's not a lot of time to work with. We said that Xavier probably needed one attempt for the entire way. They've already failed that.
It felt greedy. They could have pulled back further, but they wanted to maintain some position while waiting for the respawn. That's a huge loss as well in this rotation. It's just more time wasted. And Xavier just kind of suffering for every decision they make right now. This time, they're not going to make that same mistake. They'll go for a full retreat, so they're less vulnerable, but they're still going to lose Thittercorn.
That's the thing is, you know, you have damage coming through from Cyclone Coupling, who are going to be a little greedier. They're going to go for a few more. They know there's a low risk of them being caught out there. There's not like there's not a Roadhog on the other side that can really punish them right now. And for Cyclone Coupling, every extra kill here is going to burn a bit more time. And now the likelihood of Xavier capping with any sort of decent time going to the next time bank as soon as we get there is dwindling.
They still have to make these rotations. It's still always going to be slow. There's spam damage, there's halts, there's just risk every time they move. Any single ability connecting on the wrong member stops this short.
And we're also waiting for shield recharge. You can see, okay, we stopped a little bit there. Wait for Queen, get a bit more on that percentage. Wait for Defense Matrix to come back online as well. Waiting for a few cooldowns. Less than 1 minute now, Xavier, and nearly on to this point, but they still got to find the fight.
And this is where they start just trying to pressure the point itself, while also still not taking too much damage. It's a very fine balancing act. Big halt hook on Bello as he started the rally. Nobody's going to benefit from the armor from that, and they're already one man down as well. So many ultimates for Cyclone Coupling. Free firing line for Lee Chang-soon, totally unpressured. They've found Fallen, and the sound barrier does keep them in the fight. Bello's going to come back in on a doofus just for some extra pick potential and to get back faster. Res finally going to come through, but sleep down. MGD mechs will not be remeching. Self-destruct does not find any kills either. This is so down to the wire still, but Xavier, they do have a closer respawn, and they are getting some of the more critical picks in this fight.
Even if Xavier actually capped this one, they only have 30 seconds to go on the B, and that's if they can get it, because I think Cyclone Company can still make some trades happen here. Xavier do look like they're coming out ahead, though.
Just barely, and now they have to answer the question of whether they keep Bello on the Doomfist as well. They've only got 30 seconds, might not have time to make many swaps. They at least get their respawners out from spawn before this cap goes over, but now they've got a motor to be.
Xavier now, they know their best shot at taking this is going to be at least on a 3-2-1 comp. Alonefills, I don't expect to realistically be able to get an EMP.
They gotta go.
What they can do is get a Dixon hack in there. I mean, they're trying to regroup. They're trying to wait for HP because they're already taking damage on rotation again. Look at that A on half health.
And it's because Queen went back to spawn, maybe considering a change. They didn't have the main shield up front and center. Everyone's just had to barrel towards this. Alonefills can at least get there because he's a Sombra. He doesn't want to be the one doing that. He wants to be setting up on a flank, charging up the Soul Spit. They've got there now, though.
It's one.
Shatter finds Fallen. They need to follow up. They need to get the kill. Dragon Strike's going to try and hamper Queen, but it goes wide. Bellows low, but getting topped off now by Thittercorn. They've got a sound barrier as well. They've started to make the headway. COT's down. MG was hacked as well. That's been some pressure out to him. Hacked again. He's going to get demeched here. Recall nearly his Valkyrie, but not quite.
Cap.
That's it, Xavier. They barely pull that one through.
And there were 4 members alive for Cyclone Company, including a few members with ultimates here. You can see Sleep nearly on the Nano. Recall had himself a Valkyrie. Barrage was ready, but no one was able to contest that point. So for all the dilly-dallying that Xavier did to get on that point fairly late, Alonefills touching that one to enable the overtime, then having to recall away or translocate away straight off the bat, Xavier walking solo shatter onto Fallen to get that first player down, that 6v5 rolling. Then the sound barrier to make sure no one goes down themselves. Wait long enough for a Graviton Surge to be online. That THK doesn't end up needing at the end of the day. And for Cyclone Coupling, couldn't make the trades happen. Power of 3-3. still at least strong for that particular fight, but I also think Cyclone Coupling didn't play, I guess, swapping aggro on the point properly.
Yeah.
Couldn't keep their toes on there. If they kind of put extra ults in, this could have still gone either way.
That's the thing at the end, you know, you had sleep on the Ana. Didn't really want to touch the point if you didn't have to, but if you have to, then you do it. So you also had the Pharah, you had the Mercy in the pocket. They wanted to stay in the air. It was just awkward in all kinds of ways, but they also are the ones who swapped onto that composition. They are the ones that shot themselves in that foot.
I'll be honest though, because we're back onto time bank, because we're back onto another time bank push on A, Cyclone Coupling have been much better on both attack and defense of A. Xavier got a lot of work to do here. This time around, THK is not going to be playing around with any Genjis. He's going to be on that Widowmaker fairly quick with the lone fills in the sky with the Pharah.
They're also not taking the Mei and all that nonsense. So Cyclone Coupling, they decided to roll out the gate again just straight away with the Pharah, but this time it's not against the same composition as what Xavier had in the past. That's 1-for-1 on Orisis, but Bellow Down as well is huge. And Xavier taking a really far forward fight there, end up getting punished. Take and not commit the same kind of res that Recall can. This is just a flat 6 versus 4 favoring Cyclone Coupling.
And really, you'd expect THK to get a lot more done here. And I mean, it's already down, which means no one can test TOT now.
And this is just an absolute unmitigated disaster for Xavier. They could have just positioned more conservatively. They decided to take a very aggressive fight. And they didn't set themselves up nicely for it either. If they got traded out, they couldn't match reses because of where they were holding a lone fills and taste. This is going to be, again, a cap for Cyclone Coupling.
And I think Xavier read the opening fight a lot better this time. They had a Widowmaker to be able to address that Pharah, and it's like a moment where you say, okay, fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, wait, what? That's not supposed to happen. But it did, and now Xavier find themselves on B. They have one ultimate to play with, and they need to get a lot done off it.
Bellow's going to go into the Doomfist. They recognize that one pick could do it, but the first pick's actually on THK. Alone Phil's just going to get a lot out of this. Bellow's already down. Rocket Barrage onto Sleep. Doesn't find him, and now he's dead. Alone Phil's not going to make it happen. Cyclone Coupling, 1 minute looking like it's going to be enough to complete another cap. I don't know if Xavier can keep this one alive. I don't know if we go into a 4th order time bank here. The pressure just keeps getting higher and higher for Xavier.
And once again, Cyclone Coupling have just been that much better on the A push. And guess what happens if you're good on A? You get to walk in with some time to work with for B. You get to do something on B. You get to snowball on B. You get a good shot at maybe capping again, and that's exactly what happened. This is what that one attempt on both A and B looks like. And for Xavier now, they absolutely had to match. Said they probably need to do that last time. Still kind of drag their feet across the line at the end of the day with the time they had remaining, despite, you know, having a few blunders. This time, I don't think you can afford a single blunder. If you don't just win straight away on that first push and continue that all the way through to B and cap out fully, you will not be taking this to another time bank, and Cyclone Coupling going to be evening up the score 1-1.
The reality is, even if they do, Xavier have never held on to B. It has always gone over in the first push from Cyclone Coupling, and A has started to go the same way as well. Even if we go to the next order of time bank, Xavier would still have to fix the defense before they have a real shot at actually winning Volskaya Industries.
And this time around, when you pretty much know Lee Chang-Sen will be sniping again, having that knowledge for Xavier means, do we try and run the 3-3 goats? Are we going to go do something else? Because everything has been somewhat unsuccessful. It's taken a long time to get past A, and you can't really be affording to spend all of that 1 minute here and not doing too much on B. And for Xavier, looking like they'll be playing some sort of dive composition here. Queen is the only tank for the time being.
They cannot wait here. They cannot dilly-dally. They have to be so wary of these halts.
Lucky that no one died.
That is superbly lucky because that caught so many members, many of whom are squishy.
And because they're not running the Roadhog, they're not going to be able to collect that kill onto TOT either, so he eats that halt for free, and Xavier still looking for long rotations here. Maybe they can get a free kill to Lee Chang-Sun if he's too out of position, but
they also don't have the Widowmaker, which means their own halts. I mean, they're relying on Bellow to do the damage on them, and now Bellow's dead. And Xavier just haven't rolled out with enough pick potential to actually pull off what they're attempting here. Spam damage does find Lee Chang-Sun, and a res onto Bellow now is a numbers advantage for Xavier.
And it's going to be a res onto Lee Chang-Sun as well. Xavier needed a Nano Blade to win this last time, and now I don't know if they can get it at all.
It's probably not going to happen just with the charge there, and Tay down as well is a really big loss. They do find Lee Chang-Sun, but Recall's running the Valkyrie. They're found fallen as well. Bellow's got a nice firing line here. MG finally tries to come up to answer, gets Bello low. Bello going to try and take Sleep with him, but no, it's not going to work. And now Sleep stays alive, finds THK as well. And that is going to be where it collapses for Xavier. The late EMP, not enough. There's still too much self-sustain here. They've still got the healing from recall that Xavier utterly lack. And Cyclone Coupling are going to tie up our series in what can only be described as a harrowing bout on Assault.
You can see there right towards the end, we do finally see the Dragon play come through, and we're thinking, is this going to be the miracle? Is this going to be another play from THK that saves the day for Xavier? And Sleep finally lands that hook that he's been waiting for the entire game. And he hasn't hit a single one of them on a Dragon Blade. He hasn't hit any one of them on THK when he needs to. But right in that last engagement, right in the final fight where if you land this hook right here and now, and there is no more counterplay for the side of Xavier, you win. That's what happens, and Cyclone Coupling take it.
I mean, it was just rough. The reality is the first initial phase went better for Xavier than it did for Cyclone Coupling, but a lot of that was actually just Cyclone Coupling took a while to figure out Xavier's defense. Once they had, like, it was so effective, like the comp so nice they ran it twice, right? It ended up beating Xavier the first time on the time bank. And I mean, and even then, yeah, when they ran it the third time, it still worked, even with Xavier making a change on that third round of defense there. So you look at the whole thing on balance go, that initial one went well. Xavier's offense was good. Their defense was good until Cyclone Coupling broke through it. But after that, actually, Xavier's defenses were all very lackluster, both on A and on B. Like I said, in all 3 times they defended B, it got capped out on the first push. That shouldn't happen.
What was another telling sign is how long it was taking Xavier to get A, where it's multiple minutes, 2, 3 minutes, even when you have an Adder Blade to be able to actually push out. Whereas you see for the side of Cyclone Coupling, they can do it in that 1 minute flat. And if you can't do that quickly enough, you're not going to be able to do one in time bank, which is why you look at that third time bank, you see 1 minute on both sides. Only one team has been able to successfully do it in a short amount of time, and that is the winning team of All Sky.
I mean, outside of that, even Xavier were just the slower team to operate. They were slow on rotations. We even saw that in their sort of desperate push onto B for the original time bank phase. It barely looked like they were going to be able to do it because there was this moment of dawdling where Queen sort of went back and then went back forward, and it's like, it looked like it wasn't going to happen at all, actually. And that was the same kind of felt true of their initial offense onto A as well. It took so long, it looked like maybe it wasn't going to happen at all, that the 45-second advantage they had was going to count for nothing. And in the end, they barely pull it over the line. But honestly, I feel like realistically, the game should have been lost there for Xavier. It just ended up taking a bit longer. And
I think dive is a good option here, but they didn't really commit fully into that either. They still had Queen on the Orisa. They weren't playing the Wrecking Ball. They weren't playing for a full dislodge of high ground, break that bunker. They were kind of like waiting for the right opportunities and trying to find other things to do. And the comps didn't quite work for me because even on the defense for A, you had this Genji and what was otherwise a bunker comp, and Genji's role there feels quite weird because he wants to commit, he wants to dive in. The rest of the team doesn't want to do that. They want to play back and wait for whole combos, so it just wasn't quite comfortable for Xavier, I'm afraid, at any point during Volskaya. But that's going to be 1-1 now. Look good on Busan, and they're going to look better on map number 3 when we return. Guess we'll have to find out right after this break.